And Elvis Presley's granddaughter, Riley Keough, is opening up about her plans for Graceland and a promise to her mother.
I think for her, it was this place where she could be like wild and free.
For over 4 decades, the upstairs of the iconic Graceland estate has been completely off-limits. So much so that there has been no tour and little to no pictures of what it looks like. It's the most mysterious and protected space in rock and roll history. But now, Elvis Presley's granddaughter, Riley Keough, has broken the silence. And what she reveals is more than just memorabilia. What could Elvis have hidden up there that was so extraordinary that he didn't want anybody peeping in? Why did he build a private meditation room no one knew about? And what secrets did he leave behind quietly tucked into a shoebox, waiting for someone to find them? For the first time, the person closest to that legacy is letting us in. But she's not doing it for spectacle. She's doing it for connection. This is Elvis's granddaughter, Riley Keough, and the secrets she exposed about what's in the upper stairs of Graceland. Trust us when we tell you some of the things she discovered will change everything you think you know.
Elvis, do the other soldiers give you a rough time because you're famous?
No, sir, I was very surprised. I've never met a better group of boys in my life.
Before it became the most visited home in America, after the White House, before the fans, the amazing tours, and the wild myths, Graceland was just a quiet colonial revival house on a lonely stretch of land in Memphis. Built in 1939 by a Dr. Thomas Moore and his wife Ruth, the house had just 10 rooms. It wasn't a mansion in the Hollywood sense, but it was dignified, elegant, and peaceful. The white columns, the arched windows, the wide-open porch. It was classic Southern charm, not necessarily a typical celebrity's taste. In 1957, Elvis Presley was just 22 years old and already a global phenomenon. But behind the old-school flash bulbs and fan hysteria, he was just a boy from Tupelo, exhausted by fame and desperate for privacy. When he found Graceland, it wasn't the size or the price that caught his eye, it was the seclusion. He reportedly paid $102,500 for the property. That's about 900,000 USD today. He didn't do it to impress anyone. He did it because he wanted to disappear. But Elvis didn't just move into his new house, he transformed it. Over the next 2 decades, Graceland became a physical extension of his identity. Loud, strange, deeply personal. From the surreal green shag of the jungle room to the pink poodle wallpaper in Lisa Marie's bedroom, every corner screamed Elvis. But even as the house grew louder, Elvis himself became the polar opposite. He grew quieter, and slowly, he started spending more and more time upstairs, away from the staff, the visitors, and even some of his closest friends. Downstairs was a stage. Upstairs was the sanctuary. And that's where the story really begins.
Why do you think you've outlasted every other entertainer from the 50s and, for that matter, the 60s as well?
I take vitamin E.
Walk through Graceland today, and you'll see just about everything Elvis achieved in his lifetime. His records, his caravan, his bedazzled jumpsuits, even his favorite peanut butter and banana sandwiches are recreated in the kitchen. But according to many fans who have toured the home, the moment you inch towards the staircase in the main hallway, something shifts. That's where the tour stops. Always has. The second floor of Graceland isn't just off-limits, it's practically mythical. There have been no public photos of what the place looks like in years. And the wildest part, there are no exceptions. It doesn't matter who you are, VIP or not, you aren't entering that space. It's a no-go area even for the press. For over 40 years, it's been sealed shut, and not as some cheap marketing stunt, like some choose to believe. It was a decision made by Elvis's father, Vernon Presley, on the very day his son died, August 16, 1977. He ordered the upstairs to be locked permanently. To Vernon, That space wasn't just where Elvis had passed. It was where he had lived, where he laughed, wrote, cried, created, and collapsed under the weight of fame. It wasn't a museum piece. It was a tomb, a time capsule, a sacred place untouched by the world. And it still is. The upstairs rooms have remained completely intact. The bedroom looks exactly as it did the night Elvis died. His clothes are still hanging in the closet. His cologne still sits on the dresser. The book he was reading remained on the bedside table. Even the clock above his bed is stuck at the time his fiancée, Ginger Alden, found him, 2:30 p.m. No curators have touched it. No tours have crossed the threshold. It is, quite literally, frozen in time. When Lisa Marie took over the estate, she made the decision to respect Vernon's wishes and keep the second floor sealed away from public access. And for Riley Keough, Elvis's granddaughter, and now the legal owner of Graceland, those rooms aren't just family history. They're fragments of a man she never met, but feels closer to than most. As a child, Riley would try to sneak upstairs while guests wandered the rest of the house. She wasn't allowed to touch anything, but she remembers being overwhelmed by the stillness, the silence, the sense that Elvis hadn't vanished but had simply stepped out of the room. Now, as an adult and guardian of his legacy, Riley is the first family member to speak openly about what's behind those locked doors, not to satisfy curiosity, but to offer understanding. Because what's hidden upstairs isn't just furniture and old clothes. It's the most human part of Elvis Presley. In one of the upstairs bedrooms, dimly lit, modest, still scented faintly of cologne, Riley Keough revealed she sat alone, retracing the footsteps of a man she never met, but could feel his presence and aura emanating from the space. The room was exactly how he left it. Silk sheets untouched, personal artifacts still in place. On one nightstand, a worn leather Bible, dog-eared and filled with underlined verses. On the other, several small bottles of pain medication, some still sealed. But it was what she found tucked under the bed that hit the hardest. A shoebox, simple, dusty, labeled in capital letters, "Do not open." Riley revealed she hesitated a bit, as anyone would, but something about the weight of the box, the weight of her role, told her this wasn't about invading privacy. It was about honoring the truth. Inside were letters, unsent. One was addressed to Lisa Marie, her mother. Another cryptically labeled, "To whoever finds this after I'm gone." Riley hasn't shared what those letters said. The details are deeply personal, and she's chosen to keep them private. But what she has said is that they changed the way she sees her grandfather, not as a legend, but as a deeply conflicted, spiritual, and sometimes broken man. Riley revealed she was amazed by the state of the room, how everything remained untouched, unmoved. It was a surreal moment for her because what she found was a direct contradiction to all the wild rumors that had been pushed around by many. Among the artifacts was something even stranger, a spiral-bound notebook filled with fragmented writing. Some were prayers, others read like ramblings, bursts of consciousness scribbled in the early hours of the morning. One page just had a single word written again and again. The word was free, and it was found written dozens of times. That word, Riley said, really hit her differently, because no matter how rich, how famous, or how loved Elvis was, he was still trapped by his fame, by his body, by his addictions, by the pressure to live up to a name bigger than any human could carry. It's here that Riley speaks candidly about something her family and die-hard Elvis fans have quietly whispered for years, the so-called Presley curse. While Riley understands the context of why people call it the Presley curse, she thinks it's all wrapped up in the mythical way people see her family. However, she acknowledged the generational trauma, the addiction, fame, and grief that have haunted the Presley line, from Elvis to Lisa Marie and now to herself. And in confronting it, she's doing something no Presley before her dared to do: speak the truth out loud. These discoveries, the Bible, the pills, the letters, the journal, aren't part of any tour. You won't find them in a gift shop or behind glass. But they're real, they're raw, and they reveal something more valuable than the gold records or platinum hits proudly displayed on the first floor in Graceland. They reveal a man searching desperately for a way out. And just when Riley thought she had seen everything, she noticed another door, smaller, almost hidden, a room no one had ever mentioned to her. And when she opened it, she found something no fan has ever heard of. Tucked away at the very end of the upstairs hallway, past the bedroom, past the bathroom, beyond even the closet, was a door almost no one ever noticed. Riley called it the quiet room. It's not on any floor plan. It's never been mentioned in official Graceland tours. Not once in all the decades of speculation has it come up in fan theories or documentaries. Until now. Inside this strange cubicle was a small, windowless space. No bed, no lights, except for a single dim lamp. On the floor, soft cushions arranged in a semicircle. A white noise machine was found sitting in the corner. There were no decorations in this room, no distractions, no plaster on the walls. This was where Elvis Presley came to disappear. He called it his meditation room. According to Riley, this is where he prayed, where he read about God, energy, and destiny, where he scribbled thoughts about life and death in the margins of books on mysticism and Christian theology, books that still sit on the shelf today, spines worn, notes scribbled in the margins. This was where the king of rock and roll wasn't a performer, wasn't a father, wasn't a husband or a public figure. He was just a man, trying to quiet the noise. The small room was his safe haven, the place he'd retreat to when things became too much. The level of fame he attained in his lifetime was unprecedented, unlike anything anyone had ever seen in the music industry at the time. It's easy to imagine him wanting to be far away from it all. Riley was stunned when she found the room. She said it felt like stepping into his soul. It wasn't designed to impress, she explained. It was designed to protect. The room was so private that even most of the family never entered it. It wasn't sacred because of what was in it, but because of what it represented.
Myself, his father, it was like this whole thing was sprawled all over the couch. So it
brings back great memories.
Yeah.
Stillness, escape, a final attempt to find peace in a life that offered everything but. And this revelation, the fact that Elvis didn't just want silence, he created space for it, reframes everything we thought we knew about him. This wasn't a man drunk on fame. This was a man drowning in it and trying to breathe. And yet, even with all this emotional vulnerability exposed, there's one story that refuses to die. One theory Riley's revelations haven't fully silenced. A theory not about what Elvis left behind, but where he might have gone. For decades, rumors have swirled around Graceland like fog clinging to a haunted house. But one theory has never faded.
Well, tell me about the history of the mansion.
Wow, there's so much history here, not only when Elvis lived here.
The tunnel. The idea is simple, if unbelievable, that Elvis Presley, suffocated by fame, planned his own escape and built a secret tunnel beneath Graceland to do it. Sounds wild, right? But to some die-hard fans, it's not just possible, it's probable. The theory goes that somewhere on the estate, possibly near the meditation garden, there's a hidden underground passage stretching from the main house to a remote wooded area behind the property. Some say it was a privacy safeguard. Others believe it was a backup plan, an emergency exit from a life he couldn't control. This idea first gained traction in the late 70s, not long after Elvis's death. In 1978, a man resembling Presley was spotted at Memphis International Airport, boarding a plane under the name John Burroughs, a known alias Elvis had used when checking into hotels. It made local headlines at the time, but it was later dismissed as a look-alike. Still, it sparked a wave of sightings. Elvis at a Burger King in Michigan, Elvis at a DMV in California, Elvis watching an Elvis impersonator show in Nevada. All unverified, all denied, but never disproven. The tunnel rumor was fueled further in 1987. when a freelance journalist claimed to have snuck onto the property and found what looked like a sealed concrete entry near the rear carport. No photo, no evidence, but somehow the story stuck. Official blueprints of Graceland make no mention of a tunnel. Then again, they also don't show the secret room on the second floor, and we know that it exists. Even former staff have played coy. Some outright deny it. Others say things like, "There are parts of Graceland not even we were allowed to see." Riley Keough, when asked directly, doesn't entertain the idea. But she also doesn't spend time debunking it. Her focus isn't on conspiracy theories by fans, it's on legacy. And maybe that's the point. Maybe fans need the myth. Maybe the tunnel isn't about Elvis faking his death, it's about wishing he could have. Wishing there was a way for him to slip away, unnoticed, to start fresh, to finally be free. Because after everything Riley has revealed, his letters, his pain, his yearning for peace, the idea of Elvis disappearing doesn't sound so crazy. It sounds like something he might have dreamed of. But while this theory still lingers in the shadows, there's another one, quieter but just as persistent. And it doesn't ask if Elvis escaped. It asks if he left anything or anyone behind.
It's my favorite part of the business, is a live concert.
Elvis Presley left behind a legacy worth hundreds of millions, a home that became a museum, a voice that became a movement, and a daughter, Lisa Marie, who inherited it all. Or did she? Because for years, whispers have floated through fan forums, tabloids, and gossip mills, all circling the same question. Did Elvis have other children? Dozens have claimed to be secret sons or daughters of the king. Most fade into rumor. Some go public, armed with photos, old letters, or DNA test results from auctioned hair samples. One man even filed a court order to exhume Elvis's body for testing. It was denied, obviously. Another woman submitted what she claimed was a match between her DNA and a strand of Elvis's hair. The Presley estate dismissed it without comment. But here's where it gets complicated. After Lisa Marie's death in 2023, control of Graceland passed to her daughter, Riley Keough. Almost immediately, a legal dispute emerged. Priscilla Presley, Elvis's ex-wife and Lisa Marie's mother, contested the legitimacy of a 2016 trust amendment that named Riley as sole heir. While the matter was settled out of court, it still opened a window, a glimpse into just how contested this legacy really is. Riley may have inherited Graceland on paper, but she also inherited a fortress under siege. The Presley estate isn't just emotional territory, it's a legal battleground. It includes Elvis's name, image, royalties, and intellectual property. And anyone claiming to be his biological child isn't just seeking family recognition, they're stepping into a multi-million-dollar empire. That's why the stakes are so high, and why Riley, like Lisa Marie before her, has never publicly acknowledged any of the so-called secret heirs. It might be a legal strategy, it might be emotional exhaustion, or maybe, just maybe, there's something she knows that the public doesn't. Still, the rumors persist. Some claim Elvis had relationships in the 50s and 60s before and during his marriage to Priscilla. Women who allegedly received hush money, private phone calls, personal letters. Most of these stories collapse under scrutiny, but the fact that they keep resurfacing, that people still ask, speaks volumes. Because Elvis wasn't just a man, he was a phenomenon. And when someone becomes larger than life, the public never stops digging. But the truth is that the real power now lies with Riley. If there is a secret heir out there, it won't be a DNA test or a tabloid that confirms it. It'll be Riley Keough.
It's a combination of country music and gospel and rhythm and blues all combined is what it really was. As a child, I was influenced by all of that.
Long after the tours stopped, after the fans who come around leave their flowers at the meditation garden, there's still one question echoing through the halls of Graceland. Did Elvis leave behind music no one has ever heard? It's more than a rumor. It's a theory that refuses to fade because we know this much is true. Elvis never stopped recording. Even as his health declined, even when his world grew smaller and darker, he kept singing. Not in big studios or on televised stages, but at home, upstairs, in Graceland. In February and October of 1976, just a year before his death, Elvis recorded several hauntingly raw tracks in the Jungle Room. Songs like Way Down and Moody Blue came from these sessions. Some were released posthumously by RCA, but not all of them. According to former session musicians and Elvis's producer, Felton Jarvis, multiple tracks were left incomplete, discarded, or never sent to RCA at all. Jarvis once said Elvis would often record rough piano sessions and late-night vocal takes just for himself. There are tapes the label never even knew about, he said. So where are they? Some believe the answer lies upstairs, locked in the very rooms Riley Keough now controls. One anonymous former employee reportedly posted in a fan forum years ago that inside Elvis's upstairs study, there sat a reel-to-reel tape recorder and a stack of unlabeled tapes. No official comment has ever verified that claim, but the theory matches what we know about Elvis's private habits. He was known to review his own vocals obsessively, recording over and over again to get the tone just right. Riley hasn't said much about her grandfather's catalog since she took over, but she's made one thing clear. Not everything in Graceland has been archived. There are still documents, letters, and yes, even tapes that haven't been cataloged or digitized. Her team is working on digital preservation now, scanning everything from handwritten lyrics to unlabeled audio reels. Riley taking over as the sole heir of Graceland and the legal steward of Elvis's empire might sound like she hit a jackpot, but the reality is, it's far from that. This is a kind of role no one can fully prepare for. It wasn't some ceremonial title. It was responsibility, deep, heavy, generational. Overnight, she became not just the face of the Presley family, but its voice, its protector, and its future. And it looks like she's taken that responsibility seriously. Riley isn't cashing in on her grandfather's name. She's not selling reality shows or green-lighting dramatized biopics. In fact, she's refused multiple offers to commercialize Graceland's private spaces. When a streaming platform asked to film a docuseries inside the sealed upstairs rooms, she declined. Some spaces, she said, aren't meant for content. They're meant for closure. Instead, Riley is doing something much rarer. She's curating the truth. She works closely with archivists and preservation specialists to digitize Elvis's handwritten lyrics, journals, family photos, and private letters. Everything is being cataloged with metadata, stored securely, and prepped for future generations, not for hype, but for history. She's also initiated educational partnerships with universities and museums, positioning Elvis not just as a pop culture icon, but as a subject of serious academic study. His impact on race, music, American identity, and fame. And through all of this, she's kept her family's pain close. She's spoken openly about the Presley lineage of addiction and loss, the Presley curse, as she once called it. But instead of running from it, she's facing it with grace and honesty. Riley has become more than a granddaughter. She's become a gatekeeper of humanity, insisting that Elvis be remembered not just as a symbol or a spectacle, but as a man, a deeply complex, gifted, troubled, and spiritual man. And she's doing it by letting the silence speak. Because while the world may never see the upstairs rooms of Graceland, thanks to Riley, we no longer need to. We understand what they meant, and we understand who he really was.